Live from Woodland, California, the Woodland Opera House Guild, Musictown Studio, and Corner Drug Company present the Woodland Opera House Live Radio Theater. And now, here is our very own Gil Sebastian.
Welcome, everyone, to our special presentation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, coming to you from the stage of the historic Woodland Opera House, and featuring Roger MacDonald, Patricia Glass, Matthew Abergel, Lenore Sebastian, and yours truly, Gil Sebastian.
Back in the days of our grandparents and great-grandparents, from the 1920s to the 1950s, Americans of all ages and from all walks of life would gather with their families around their big cabinet radios for an evening's entertainment.
Outside, the Great Depression loomed, and then World War II raged. But inside, personalities such as Bing Crosby, George Burns, and Gracie Allen, Jack Benny and Fanny Brice filled their hearts with hope and their households with laughter.
Nightly, audiences sat enthralled as they listened to all kinds of programs coming to them over the radio waves. Comedies, dramas, kids' shows, soap operas. There was literally something for everybody.
The actors in these live broadcasts, standing at microphones and reading from handheld scripts, were accompanied by live music and even live sound effects. With us today, we're pleased to have Dean Mora playing our live musical accompaniment on the Lowry organ generously provided by Musictown Studio. And providing our live sound effects, we have our prop master extraordinaire, Jason Hammond.
Of course, those old-time radio shows wouldn't have existed without their sponsors. So the actors also performed live commercials during the broadcasts, and we're proud to follow in that tradition.
Since 1897, Corner Drug Company has provided Yolo County with quality products and exceptional service.
Family owned and operated, now in its third generation, Corner Drug combines the best of the new, such as the latest prescription technologies,
with the best of the old, like personalized service and free delivery.
With a full line of unique toys and gifts, Corner Drug can make short work of your holiday shopping list.
free gift wrapping, too.
Corner Drug Company at the corner of 1st and Main, a Woodland tradition for over a century.
Corner Drug Company. So join us then on our journey to the past, both to mid-20th century America and to the merry old England of Queen Victoria, lace doilies and horse-drawn carriages. It's a bitterly cold Christmas Eve in London town, and the golden glow of the gas lamps casts a shimmering light on the snow-covered streets as our tale begins.
Marley was dead. To begin with, there is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, and the undertaker. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good for anything he chose to put his hand to. Yes, there is no doubt that Marley was dead. As dead as a doornail.
Scrooge and he had been partners for I don't know how many years. But after Marley died, Scrooge never painted out Marley's name on the sign that hung above the door to their offices. There it hung, years afterwards, Scrooge and Marley.
Oh, but he was as tight-fisted as they come, that Ebenezer Scrooge. A squeezing, grasping, clutching, covetous old cuss. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, and stiffened his walk. No wind that blew was bitterer than he.
Nobody ever stopped him in the street with cheerful looks. No beggars implored him for a handout. No children asked the time of day of Scrooge. Even the dogs knew to avoid him. When one saw Scrooge coming, he would tug his master into a doorway to escape him.
But what did Scrooge care? It was exactly what he liked. to edge his way along the crowded paths of life, warning all human sympathy to keep its distance.
Once upon a time, of all the good days in the year on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, and though but late afternoon, quite dark already.
Scrooge kept the door to his small office in the counting house open so that he might keep his eye upon his clerk.
Bob Cratchit, that was the net clerk's name, toiled away copying letters in a dismal little cell of his own.
Scrooge kept a very small fire for himself, but Bob Cratchit's fire was much smaller still.
And once his small portion of coal ran out, he wouldn't dare ask his employer for more.
So, Bob tried to warm himself with the little candle on his desk, in which effort, alas, he failed.
At that moment, and bringing some much-needed warmth into the cold environs of the counting house, burst Scrooge's nephew, Fred.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!
Ah, humbug!
Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I am sure.
I certainly do, nephew. What right have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Oh, come then. What right have you to be dismal? You're rich enough.
Ah, humbug!
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Uncle!
Nephew, you keep Christmas in your own way, and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone, then. Much good may it do you.
There are many things, Uncle, from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited. Christmas, I dare say, among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good, and I say, God bless it.
You're quite a powerful speaker, sir. I wonder you don't go into Parliament.
Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
I have a question for you, Fred. Why?
Why?
Yes, why? Why did you get married?
Because I fell in
Oh,
love.
because you fell in love. Bah! Good afternoon.
But, Uncle, you never came to see me before that happened. Why give it as a reason for not coming now?
Good afternoon.
I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends?
Good afternoon.
I am sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute. But I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. A Merry Christmas, Uncle!
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year!
Good afternoon.
And a Merry Christmas to you, Bob!
Ooh, Merry Christmas, sir.
There's another fellow. My clerk, Bob Cratchit, with 15 shillings a week and a wife and a family to support, talking about a Merry Christmas. I'll retire to Bedlam.
And no sooner had Scrooge refocused his attention on the day's end reconciliation of his accounts than two well-dressed ladies suddenly appeared at his doorstep.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years, madam. He died 7 years ago, this very night.
Then we may presume we're not addressing Mr. Marley, I dare say.
What do you want?
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provisions for the poor and destitute. Many thousands are in want of common necessities.
Are there no prisons? No workhouses?
Both very busy, sir.
I'm very glad to hear it.
If you of us ladies are endeavoring to raise funds to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth.
We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices.
What shall we put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to be anonymous.
I wish to be left alone.
Oh.
Since you ask me what I wish, madam, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there.
And many would rather die.
If they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
But Mr. Scrooge...
Good afternoon, ladies.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay.
Oh, you there, boy!
Remember
Get
Christ
away
the
from my
Savior.
door, you're caterwauling!
But sir, it's Christmas Eve.
Ah, Amber! Cratchit,
Yes, Mr. Scrooge.
you'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose.
Quite convenient, sir.
It is not convenient, and it's not fair. If I was to take half a crown from your wages for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I imagine.
Well, sir.
And yet, you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work.
It is only once a year, sir.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose you may have the whole day.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
But be here all the earlier next morning.
I promise I will, sir. Merry Christmas, sir.
Ah,
Scrooge closed his office, walked out with a growl, and started for home. He lived in chambers which had once belonged to his deceased partner, Jacob Marley. It was old enough now and dreary enough, for nobody lived in it but Scrooge.
Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all peculiar about the knocker on the door, except that it was very large. Also, bear in mind that Scrooge had not given one thought to Marley since that afternoon.
Then how can it be that Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker not a knocker,
what's that?
but the face of his 7 years deceased partner,
Jacob Marley!
looking at Scrooge just as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up upon its ghostly forehead. And though the eyes were wide open, they were perfectly motionless.
Terrified, Scrooge stood transfixed by the fantastic sight. He blinked his eyes in disbelief. And lo, it was a knocker yet again.
That's what I thought.
Scrooge fastened the door, walked across the hall, and slowly up the stairs to his rooms. As an added precaution, he walked through them to see that all was right.
Nobody under the table. Nobody under the sofa. Nobody under the bed. Nobody in the closet.
Quite satisfied, he closed the door to his rooms and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom.
Thus secured, he removed his clothes, put on his dressing gown, slippers, and nightcap, and sat down before the fire to take his gruel.
It was a very low fire indeed, nothing on such a bitter night. Then, flickering within the meager flames, he thought he could just make out a face.
Marley, is that you again? Bah, humbug!
Soon as his eyes grew weary and he leaned his head back on the chair, his glance happened to rest upon a bell pull long out of use for many years, that hung in the room.
To his great astonishment, and with a strange, inexplicable dread, he saw it begin to swing back and forth.
It swung so softly in the outset that it scarcely made a sound. But soon it rang out loudly, and so did every bell in the house.
Stop that infernal ringing! Stop it, I say! Oh, that's more like it.
Then there came a clanking noise from deep down below.
Oh, what is that racket?
It was as if someone were dragging a heavy chain up Scrooge's stairs.
Humbug still! I won't believe it!
The heavy bolts on the door were thrown aside. The door itself flung wide open to reveal a ghostly figure, bound head to toe in iron chains.
Oh no! What do you want from me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Marley.
You don't believe me?
I don't,
Why do you doubt your senses?
because a little thing affects them. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese. There's more of gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are. Humbug, I tell you, humbug! Mercy! Dreadful apparition! Why do you trouble me?
Oh, it is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death, to witness what it did not share but might have shared on earth.
You are fettered with chains. Tell me why.
Oh, I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link. I girded it of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it.
I am sorry for you, Jacob.
And would you know the weight and length of the chain you bear yourself? It was full as heavy as long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago, and you have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
Tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give. Very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. And weary journeys lie before me.
You must have been very slow about it, Jacob. 7 years dead and traveling all the time?
No rest, no peace, incessant torture of remorse. Oh! Captive, bound, and double-ironed. Not to know that no space of regret can make amends for one's life's opportunities misused, yet such was I.
But you were always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, and benevolence were all my business. Hear me, my time is nearly gone.
I will, but don't be hard upon me, Jacob.
I am here to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate, Ebenezer.
You always were a good friend to me, Jacob.
You will be visited tonight by 3 spirits.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first when the bell tolls 1, the second at 2 bells, and the third when the strike of 3 has ceased to vibrate.
Couldn't I take them all at once and have it done?
Look to see me no more. and look that for your own sake you remember what has passed between us.
The apparition beckoned him to the window, and Scrooge followed. He looked out. The air was filled with phantoms, flying hither and yon in restless haste, and moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains, like Marley's ghost.
Whether these creatures faded into mist, or mist enshrouded them, Scrooge could not tell. But they and their spirit voices faded together. He looked back over his shoulder to question the specter, and it too had vanished into thin air. He quickly moved to examine the door by which the ghost had entered.
Double locked! Just as I did it with my own hands. Bah! Humbug!
And whether from the fatigues of the day, the glimpse of the phantom world, the conversation he'd had with the ghost, or the lateness of the hour, Scrooge went straight to bed and fell asleep upon the instant.
We'll be back to our program in just a moment after a word from one of our fine sponsors.
I don't know about you, but my life just wouldn't be complete without the joy that music brings. Not only during the holiday season, but all year long.
Music Town Studio in the heart of Woodland, California, provides a dynamic learning environment for students of all ages to develop a lifelong passion for musical appreciation and performance.
Offering private lessons in both vocal and instrumental music, Music Town Studio has a roster of caring and qualified instructors who will nurture each student's talent and help them achieve their personal goals as a musician.
Contact them by phone at 530-402-1950 or visit their website, musictownstudio, that's all one word, .net. Music Town Studio, located at 215 Court Street, between the Nugget Market and Holy Rosary Church.
Music Town Studio!
We now return to Act 2 of A Christmas Carol.
One bell. The hour itself. And nothing else.
And just as Scrooge was about to settle back into the warm embrace of his bed, a light flashed up in the room, and the curtains of his bed were drawn aside, I tell you, by a hand. And Scrooge found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew them.
It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old woman, diminished to a child's proportions. Its hair was white as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle in it. It held a branch of holly in its hand, and from the crown of its head there sprung a bright golden flame.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
What business has brought you here?
Your welfare.
I'm much obliged, spirit, but a good night's sleep might be more conducive to that end.
Your reclamation, then. Rise and walk with me. Come.
But out the window, spirit? I am but a mortal and liable to fall.
Take my hand, and you shall be upheld.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall. and Scrooge found himself standing upon an open country road. The city had entirely vanished. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day, with snow upon the ground.
Good heaven! I know this place! I was a boy here!
You recollect the way.
I could walk it blindfolded. Why, look! There is the church, and the bridge, and the little winding river.
Hello, Ben. Are you going home for Christmas?
And there are farmers
Hello?
driving their carts to
Let's
market.
go.
Giddy up, Polly.
And those boys! I know them!
These are but shadows of the things that have been. They have no consciousness of us. Merry Christmas, Ben.
Oh, and to you, Andy.
Well, that's Andrew Plank and little Ben Grissom.
They left the high road and soon approached a dull red brick schoolhouse, but one of broken fortunes, for the walls were damp and mossy, the windows broken, and the gates decayed. The door opened before them into a long, melancholy room. A lonely boy was reading near a feeble fire.
The school is not quite deserted. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still.
I know. Poor boy. I wish... Oh, but it's too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you
There was a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night.
born on Christmas Day.
I should like to have given him something. That's all.
Let us see another Christmas. Dear brother,
Fan?
I have come to bring you home. Home, home, home.
Really, Fan?
Oh, yes, home for good and all, forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be. I asked him once more if you might come home, and he said yes. And he sent me to bring you, and we're to be together for Christmas and have the merriest time in all the world.
always a delicate creature, your sister Fan. But she had a large heart.
So she had.
She died a young woman, having given birth to a child.
Yes. My nephew, Fred.
Come, take my hand.
They were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city. Here, too, it was Christmas time. The ghost stopped at a warehouse door.
Do you know this place?
Know it? I was apprenticed here. Why, it's Fezziwig! Bless his heart! It's Fezziwig alive again!
Yo, ho there, Ebenezer! Dick!
Sir!
Sir!
Dick Wilkins, to be sure. Bless me, yes, he was very much attached to me.
No more work tonight. It's Christmas Eve, boys. Clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here. Hilly-ho, Dick! Cheer up, Ebenezer!
There was nothing they couldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. The floor was swept, the lamps were trimmed, fuel was heaped upon the fire, and the warehouse was as bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night.
In came a fiddler with a music book.
In came Mrs. Fezziwig with one vast, substantial smile.
In came the three Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable.
In came the 6 young would-be suitors whose hearts they broke.
In came all the young men and women employed in the business.
In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker.
In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman.
In they all came,
One
after
another. Oh, and away they all went, 20 couples at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again and round and round.
There were more dances, and there was cake, and there was a great piece of cold roast, and there were mince pies, and plenty of beer.
Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig.
As to her, she was worthy to be his partner in every sense of the term.
Merry
When the clock struck 11, the ball broke up.
Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations.
One on either side the door.
And shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went out.
Wished him
Or her.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. Good night, Dick. Good night, Ebenezer.
Good night, Mr. Fezziwig. Merry Christmas, sir.
Good night. Good night. Very good
Good night, everyone. Good
A
night.
small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude.
Small? Why, the happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune.
What is the matter?
It's just, I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk, Bob Cratchit, just now. That's all.
My time grows short. Quick!
Within a flash, the years flew by.
Scrooge saw himself again. He was older now.
His face didn't have the harsh and rigid lines of later years, but it had begun to show the signs of care and avarice.
He was not alone, but sat next to a fair young girl in whose eyes there were tears.
It matters little, to you very little. Another idol has displaced me, and if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one. I have seen your noble aspirations fall off one by one, save only your desire for wealth.
Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you, am I, Belle?
We made our contract when we were both poor and content to be so.
I was a boy.
But now you are changed. Thus, I release you from it.
I have never sought release.
In words, no, never.
In what then?
In a changed nature. In everything that made my love of any worth or value in your sight. And so I release you, with a full heart, for the love of him you once were.
Say something, you fool.
You may have pain in this for a brief time, and then you will dismiss it, gladly, as an unprofitable dream from which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
Spirit, remove me from this place.
I told you these were the shadows of things that have been. That they are what they are. Do not blame me.
I cannot bear it. Leave me. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
Scrooge was suddenly overcome by an irresistible drowsiness. As if by magic, he was at once back in his own bedroom. He staggered to his bed and sank again into a heavy sleep.
Ebenezer!
What? What's that?
Get up, man! Come in!
Who's there? What do you want?
Come in and know me better, man.
Opening the door to his upstairs parlor, Scrooge had no doubt that it was his own room, but it had undergone a magnificent transformation.
The walls and ceiling were hung with holly, mistletoe, and ivy.
And such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney as the hearth had never known in Scrooge's time.
Heaped upon the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, long wreaths of sausages,
Mince pies, plum puddings,
Cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears.
immense cakes, and seething bowls of punch that filled the chamber with their delicious steam.
In easy state upon this throne of delight, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, clothed in a deep green robe bordered with white fur.
On its head it wore a holly wreath, set here and there with shining icicles.
Its hair was a mass of dark brown curls, long and free.
Free as its genial face, its sparkling eye, its open hand, and its cheerful voice.
Welcome, sir.
And who are you, sir?
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You have never seen the like of me before.
Indeed, Spirit, I have not. Conduct me where you will, Spirit. If you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it.
Very well, sir. Come along then. Touch my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast.
Holly, mistletoe, turkeys, sausages, pies, puddings, and punch all vanished instantly.
So did the room, the fire, the festive glow, and the hour of night.
They now stood in the city streets on Christmas morning. An air of cheerfulness suffused the scene.
The people who were shoveling away on the housetops were jovial and full of glee, calling out to one another from the parapets.
The grocers' shops were still open, and the fruit shops were radiant in their glory. The customers were all so hurried and so eager in the hopeful promise of the day that they tumbled up against each other in the best humor possible.
The ghost and Scrooge went on invisibly through the town and straight to the home of Bob Cratchit. On the threshold of the door, the spirit smiled and stopped to bless the dwelling with the sprinklings of his torch. Think of that! Bob had but 15 bob a week himself, and yet the ghost of Christmas present blessed his 4-roomed house.
What has ever got your precious father and Tiny Tim and Martha warn't as late last Christmas by half an hour?
Here's Martha, Mother.
Hurrah! There's such a goose, Martha. Wait till you see it.
Why, bless your heart alive, Martha, how late you are.
We'd a great deal of work to finish up last night and had to clear away this morning, Mother.
Well, never mind so long as you are come. Sit you down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm Lord bless you.
Almost home, Tiny Tim.
Hurry, Father.
No, there's Father coming.
Hide, Martha, hide! No.
Why, where's our Martha?
Not coming.
Not coming? Not coming upon Christmas Day?
Here I am, Father! Surprise!
Oh, my dear, I knew you wouldn't miss Christmas Day with us.
And how did little Tim behave?
Oh, as good as gold, and better. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in the church because he was crippled. And it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. But you're growing strong and hearty, aren't you, Tiny Tim?
I am, Father. When do we eat?
We've just been waiting for you, my dear.
Hurrah!
A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
Spirit,
Smells like heaven, my
tell
dear.
me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner,
Give us another
and a
one.
crutch without an owner carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, kind Spirit, say he will be spared.
Why? If he be like to die, he had better do it, and decrease the surplus population.
You are cruel, Spirit, to rebuke me with my own words.
Attention, family.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to raise a toast
To whom, Father?
to Mr. Scrooge. I give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children, Christmas Day.
It should be Christmas Day, I'm sure, to drink the health of such a stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert.
My dear, Christmas Day.
I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his. Long life to him, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and happy, I have no doubt. To Mr. Scrooge.
Mr. Scrooge!
Scrooge.
By this time it was getting dark, and as Scrooge and the Spirit went along the streets, there were so many people on their way to friendly gatherings, you might have thought that no one was at home to give them welcome when they got there, instead of every house expecting company and opening their doors wide to welcome them in.
It was a glad surprise to Scrooge to hear a hearty laugh, and a much greater surprise to recognize it as his own nephew's, and to find himself in a bright, gleaming room with the Spirit smiling by his side.
Why, that's Fred, my nephew. I'd know that laugh anywhere.
He said that Christmas was a humbug as I lived. He believed it, too.
Oh, more shame on him, Fred.
Oh, he's a comical old fellow, that's the truth. And not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment. And I have nothing to say against him.
I'm sure he is very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so.
Oh, what of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he is ever going to benefit us with it.
I have no patience with him.
Oh, I have, and I'm sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims? Himself, always. Here he takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence?
He loses a very good dinner, that's what.
I was only going to say that the consequence of his not making merry with us is that he loses some pleasant moments, which could do him no harm. Now, I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not. He may rail at Christmas till he dies, but he can't help thinking better of it if he finds me still going to see him in good temper year after year and saying, "Uncle Scrooge, how are you?" If it only puts him in the vein to leave his poor clock 50 pounds, that's something.
After tea, they had some music, for they were a musical family, and knew what they were about when they sung a glee or catch, I can assure you.
But they didn't devote the whole evening to music. No, there were games to be played too. For it is good to be children sometimes, and never better than at Christmas.
Though no one could hear him, he sometimes shouted out his guesses loudly, and very often guessed right, too. For the sharpest there was not sharper than Scrooge.
We must be on our way, Ebenezer.
Oh, no, Spirit, please. Let us stay until the guests depart.
It cannot be done.
Time for a new game. This one's called Yes and No.
Ah, here's a new game. 1/2 hour, Spirit, only one.
Oh, is it an animal?
Yes?
Is it an agreeable animal?
No.
Would you say it was savage?
Yes.
Oh, does it growl and grunt?
On occasion, yes.
Is it a horse?
No.
A tiger?
No.
A bear!
No.
I know what it is, Fred. I know what it is.
What is it?
It's your Uncle Scrooge.
Oh, correct!
You should have said yes when I asked if it was a bear.
He has given us plenty of merriment, I am sure, and it would be ungrateful not to drink his health. So I say, Uncle Scrooge.
Uncle Scrooge.
A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the old man, wherever he is.
Scrooge had become so happy and light of heart that he would have toasted the company in return if the ghost had given him time. But the whole scene disappeared in the breath of the last word Fred spoke.
And Scrooge and the Spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw and far they went, and many homes they visited. It was a long night.
My life upon this globe is very brief. Hark, the time is drawing near.
Forgive me, Spirit, but I see something strange. There, coming forth from your great robe.
2 children appeared from the folds of the spirit's gown, a boy and a girl, pitiful, frightful, miserable.
Spirit, are they yours?
These are the children of all humankind. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware them both, but most of all, beware ignorance. For on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased.
Have they no refuge or resource?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
Stricken by his own words, Scrooge turned away. When he looked back again, the spirit was gone.
We'll be back to our program in just a moment. But first, here is a message from another one of our fine sponsors.
We here at the Woodland Opera House owe a great debt of gratitude to the Opera House Guild.
Since 1989, the Guild's volunteer members have ushered at performances and concerts, sold concessions, served as docents for tours and other special events, and assisted in fundraising.
Guild membership is a wonderful opportunity open to all, both teenagers and adults, who are interested in supporting the ongoing operations of one of Northern California's most treasured arts venues, the historic Woodland Opera House.
For more information about how you can become a Guild member, email us at woodlandopera, that's one word, at gmail.com.
And now, Act 3 of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. At the last stroke of the clock, Scrooge remembered the prophecy of old Jacob Marley, and turning around, beheld a solemn phantom approaching him.
Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for this spirit seemed to spread gloom and mystery in the very air through which it moved.
It was shrouded in a deep black garment which concealed its head, face, and form, and left nothing of it visible except one outstretched hand.
I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The spirit gave no answer, but pointed downward with its hand.
You are about to show me shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen in the time before us. Is that so, Spirit?
The spirit inclined its head in a solemn nod.
Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, I am prepared to bear you company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?
It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them.
Lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me. Lead on, Spirit.
The phantom moved away, with Scrooge following in the shadow of its robe, which bore him up and carried him along.
They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them.
There they were, at the exchange.
Scrooge knew it well and frequented it himself regularly.
Merchants hurried up and down, jingled the money in their pockets, conversed in groups, and looked at their watches.
No, I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
Oh, when did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Oh. What was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die.
God knows.
Oh, what has he done with his money?
I haven't heard. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know.
It's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for upon my life I don't know of anybody to go to it. Shall we volunteer?
I don't mind going if a lunch is provided.
I know those men, Spirit. Of whom do they speak? Why do you show me this?
They left the busy scene and went into an obscure part of the town where Scrooge had never penetrated before.
Although he recognized its situation and its bad repute.
The whole quarter reeked with crime, filth, and misery.
Far in this den of infamous resort, there was a low-browed beetling shop where iron, old rags, bottles, and bones were bought.
Scrooge and the Phantom arrived just as a woman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop. A charwoman.
But she had scarcely entered when another woman, similarly laden, came in too.
A laundress.
And she was closely followed by a man in faded black, the Undertaker's man.
Greeting these three was the shop's gray-haired rascal of a proprietor.
Oh, Joe! You couldn't have met in a better place. What do you have for me, then? Undertaker's man first, laundress next, and then you, charwoman, last.
Very well. Who's the worse for the loss of a few things like these? Not a dead man, I suppose.
No, indeed.
If he wanted to keep him after he was dead, he'd have had somebody look after him instead of gasping out his last there, alone by himself.
It's the truest word that ever was spoke. It's a judgment on him.
Let's see, Undertaker, what you got.
Here's a pencil case, a pair of sleeve buttons, and a brooch.
A paste brooch, looks like.
Oh,
Well, here you are. And I wouldn't give another sixpence if I was to be boiled for not doing it. Who's next? Laundress?
I got sheets, towels, a shirt, his breeches, and a lovely pair of boots.
There you go, love. I always gives too much to the ladies. It's a weakness of mine, and that's the way I ruin myself. And if you ask me for another penny, I'll knock off half a crown.
And now undo my bundle, Joe.
What do you call this?
Bed curtains.
You don't mean to say you took 'em down, rings and all, with him lying there?
Why not?
You were born to make your fortune, weren't you, dearie?
Well, I certainly shan't hold my hand when I can get anything in it by reaching it out. And them's his blankets.
Ooh, I hope he didn't die of anything catching.
This is the end of it, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive to profit us when he was dead.
Spirit, I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. Is there no person who feels some tenderness at this man's death? No one who remembers him fondly? If so, show me that person, Spirit, I beseech you.
The ghost gave no reply, but conducted him through several streets familiar to Scrooge.
And as they went along, Scrooge looked here and there, hoping for a glimpse of himself in the future. But nowhere was he to be seen.
They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found Mrs. Cratchit and the children seated round the fire.
Quiet. Strangely quiet. Two of the little Cratchits, still as statues, sat in the corner looking up at their brother Peter, who had a book before him.
The mother and her daughters were engaged in sewing, but surely they were all very quiet.
My eyes are tired working in this candlelight. But I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home, not for the world. Must be near his time.
Past it rather, but he's walked a little slower these last few evenings, Mother.
I've known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed.
And so have I. Often.
But he was very light to carry, our Tiny Tim was. And his father loved him so that it was no trouble. No trouble at all.
There's Father now.
Oh, hello, Father.
Merry Christmas,
Welcome
Father.
home.
Hello, children. Sorry to be so late.
I've got your tea ready, Bob.
Did you go again after work today, Father?
Yes, my dear.
Today, Robert.
I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him we would walk there on a Sunday. Oh, my little child. My dear child.
Don't be grieved, Father.
I won't. On the street, I happened to into Mr. Scrooge's nephew. I'd scarcely seen him but once or twice before, but he was extraordinarily kind. He remarked I seemed to be a little down, and he inquired what had happened to distress me, and I told him, and he said that he was heartily sorry for my good wife. By the by, how he knew that, I don't know.
Knew what, my dear?
Why, that you were a good wife.
But everybody knows that.
Very well observed, my boy. I hope they do. If I can be of any service to you in any way, he said, giving me his card, that's where I live. It really seemed as if he had known our Tiny Tim and felt with us.
I'm sure he's a good soul.
Oh, you would be even sure of it, my dear, if you saw him and spoke to him. To have remembered our Tiny Tim like that.
I'm sure we shall none of us forget our Tiny Tim.
No,
Never,
not
Mother,
ever,
never.
Mother.
And I know, my dears, that when we recall our Tiny Tim, we shall remember what a happy little child he was. And then we can't be anything but happy ourselves, can we?
Never, Father.
Never, Father, for
We'll be
Tiny
happy
Tim.
for Tiny Tim.
I am very happy, children. So very happy.
Oh, poor Tiny Tim. Could he not be saved? Was there no medicine, no treatment that could have prevented him from dying? And still you will not answer me? Oh, Spirit, I know that your time here is brief. Before you leave me, I must know the name of the man who died, with no one to shed for him a mournful tear.
In answer to Scrooge's query, the ghost of Christmas yet to come led him to a familiar spot.
May we not stop here, Spirit? These are my offices. Let me behold what I shall be in days to come.
The spirit stopped, but its hand was pointed elsewhere.
Here is my counting house. Why do you point away?
The spirit's finger didn't budge.
Let me at least glimpse through the window. I know this place, Spirit, but it is changed. These are not my things, my furniture, and that man seated in the chair. Who is he?
The phantom moved on as before, and Scrooge was left no choice but to join it once again, accompanying the spirit until they reached an iron gate, a churchyard.
Here, then, the wretched man whose name Scrooge had yet to learn lay underneath the ground.
The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one.
Before I draw nearer to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of things that will be? Or are they the shadows of things that may be?
Still, The ghost pointed downward to the grave.
If a man keeps to the same course, it will lead to an inevitable end. But if he changes his course, the end must change as well. Say it is the spirit with what you show me.
The spirit was immovable as ever. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger read upon the stone of the neglected grave.
Ebenezer! Scrooge! No spirit. Oh no, no spirit, hear me. I'm not the man I was. Why show me this if I'm past all hope? Assure me that I may change these shadows you have shown me by an altered life. Oh, tell me that I may sponge away the writing on this stone.
In his agony, Scrooge caught the spectral hand. It sought to free itself, but Scrooge was strong in his entreaty and detained it.
In an instant, the ghost's hand collapsed and dwindled down into a bedpost.
Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own.
Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, in which to make amends.
Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven in the Christmas time be praised for this. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather, as merry as a schoolboy, as giddy as a drunken man. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits.
Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist. It was bright, crisp, and clear.
Golden sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet, fresh air.
Merry bells ringing out the lustiest peals he had ever heard. Oh, glorious, glorious!
Scrooge called downward to a boy on the streets.
You there, boy! What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, Christmas Day.
Oh, it's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. Well, they can do anything they like. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow. Do you know the poulterers in the next street at the corner?
I should hope I did.
Oh, an intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there, the big one?
What? The one as big as me?
Oh, what a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my boy.
It's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
Ah, go on.
No, I am in earnest. Go and buy it, and tell them to bring it here, that I may give them direction where to take it. Come back in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you £0.50.
Yes, sir, Governor.
Oh, I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. And he shan't know who sent it. Why, it's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
Scrooge went downstairs, ready for the coming of the poulterer's man.
Here's the turkey. Hello, how are you? Merry Christmas. Oh, why, it's impossible to carry that to Camden Town. You must have a cab.
The chuckle with which he said this, and the chuckle with which he paid for the turkey, and the chuckle with which he paid for the cab were only exceeded by the chuckle with which he paid the boy.
£0.50? Thank you, Governor. And Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Scrooge dressed himself in all his best and at last got out into the streets. The people were by this time pouring forth. He regarded everyone with a delighted smile.
Good morning, sir. Merry Christmas to you.
And a Merry Christmas to you, sir. And a fine morning to you, sir. Merry Christmas.
And to you, sir.
He had not gone far when, coming towards him, he beheld the two ladies who had walked into his counting house the day before, seeking donations for charity.
Good morning, ladies. How do you do? I hope you succeeded in your collections yesterday. It was very kind of both of you. A Merry Christmas to you both.
Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, that is my name. And I fear it may not be very pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon. And will you have the goodness to accept my donation?
Lord bless me!
My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
Oh, if you please, and not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that favor?
My dear sir, I don't know what to say to such munificent...
Don't say anything. Thank you. I am much obliged to you. Bless you.
Scrooge went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro.
He patted children on the head and gave coins to beggars.
He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything could give him so much happiness.
In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house.
Yes, sir?
Is your master at home, my dear?
He's in the dining room, sir, along with the mistress. I'll show you upstairs, if you please.
Thank you. He knows me. I'll just go on up, my dear.
Shall we play again? I want to.
Fred?
Why, bless my soul, Uncle Scrooge.
I have come to dinner, Fred. If you'll have me.
It was a mercy to Scrooge that Fred didn't shake his arm off. He felt welcomed and at home in 5 minutes. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful happiness.
The next morning, Scrooge was early at the office. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late, that was the thing he had set his heart upon.
The clock struck 9, no Bob. 1/4 past, no Bob. He was a full 18.5 minutes behind his time.
Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see his clerk come in the door.
Oh, Mr. Scrooge, I'm terribly sorry.
Cratchit? What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I know, and I'm very sorry I'm late, sir.
You are? Yes, I think you are. Step this way, if you please.
It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
Now I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am about to raise your salary.
No, please, sir. I promise I shall. What, sir?
A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavor to assist your struggling family. Oh, now, it's a bit chilly, don't you think? Add some more coal to the fire before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more.
And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father.
He became as good a friend, as good an employer, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city in the good old world.
Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh and little heeded them. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him.
And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge.
May
that be truly said of all of us.
And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone.
We hope you've enjoyed our live radio presentation of A Christmas Carol, performed on the stage of the historic Woodland Opera House.
Brought to you courtesy of the generous support of Corner Drug Company, Music Town Studio, and the Woodland Opera House Guild.
All of us here at the Woodland Opera House long for the day when we'll be able to welcome audiences safely back into our beautiful theater to share the magic of live theater with you, our friends and patrons.
In the meantime, we're still offering a wide range of theater workshops and dance classes for all age groups, children through adults. More information is available online at woodlandoperahouse, that's one word, .org.
until we see you again, we wish each and every one of you a joyous holiday season and a healthy and happy new year.
So from all of us here at the Woodland Opera House,
Happy Holidays!